Christina Turngren with the CU Home Team eXp Realty, and today we're going to learn about real estate law from Kyle Emkes with Maatuka Al-Heeti Emkes Attorneys at Law. And I've had the privilege of working with Kyle over the years, and he always shows up ready to work hard for his clients. He's knowledgeable with all aspects of real estate law. And so today, Kyle's taken some time out to join us, and I'm really excited to share his knowledge with all of you. Welcome, Kyle.
Hey, thanks, Christina.
Of course. So, Kyle, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and about how long you've been an attorney?
Sure. I went to the big city for undergrad, so Champaign, from Mahomet, where I grew up, and got picked up right out of law school to work for a firm called Robert Dodd & Associates, where I was able to do a little bit of real estate, but also work with families, probate and estate planning. So from 2008, got licensed and started practice law in 2010, and I've been doing it ever since and loving every bit of it.
That's great. So what fascinates you and what got you into dealing with real estate transactions?
Real estate transactions are one of those, what I call big high points in people's lives. So people get married, people have children, people buy houses. It's always one of those things that folks are dealing with. And it's a high stress environment, but it doesn't have to be. So one of the things that I like to do is be involved in that transaction to help them navigate that transaction in a way that kind of alleviates some of those stress points and kind of be their GPS system to get them through that transaction. I think one of the other things I love is the fact that, as you know, there's no such thing as a cookie cutter transaction. Every transaction is different, so I get to meet new people, get to deal with new situations, and really have a good time doing that.
So you touched a little bit on making the transaction smooth for your clients. Beyond that, can you share why it's really important for people that are listening to use an attorney to represent them through that transaction?
Oftentimes I've discovered that you don't know you need an attorney until you need one. And so there's been many times my real estate friends have called me and said, my clients didn't think they needed an attorney, but we're closing tomorrow morning and there's been something developed during the walkthrough and we need you. Can you be there? And so I tell people that in the smoothness of the transaction from the early part, a lot of the behind the scenes that I'm doing, verifying that the title work is ordered, verifying that the real estate tax prorations are correct, and dealing with potential title issues. People are human, attorneys are human, and they make mistakes. So having two attorneys in the transaction potentially reduces that risk that there might be a mistake, a vital mistake made on a deed, vital title commitment issue that is missed. And so when there's two attorneys working together, you reduce the risk that there's a mistake made in what is most people's largest purchase that they'll make during their life.
Absolutely. So for sellers that are hiring real estate attorneys to represent them through the transaction, can you share a little bit about what you're doing behind the scenes to represent them?
Sure. One thing that my office does that I think is rather unique, we've realized that a lot of sellers for a variety of reasons may not necessarily be able to make the closing. And so from the very beginning, we offer the opportunity for our sellers to be able to obtain a power of attorney where they can send me to closing for them and that they don't necessarily have to attend the closing. But from the moment we get the initial contract, we'll review that contract, determine the inspection dates, make sure that those dates are adhered to, and order the initial title work. And make sure that there's no defects in title, and obviously if there's a mortgage, we'll get that payoff ordered as soon as possible to allow a lender time to be able to get that payoff to us, and then also obtain any other statements of payoff. So homeowners association dues are ones that are often, I know as a real estate agent, you've seen where people are chasing those last minute to say, I got to get that letter. We like to get that letter as soon as possible in the transaction so that we're not chasing that. And then also in Champaign-Urbana, we have the Champaign-Urbana Sanitary District. And so we'll contact them to make sure that that proration is done as well.
Well, it sounds like everything that you're doing for your sellers is phenomenal and you're making it really easy for them. Kyle, can you share a little bit about why a buyer should hire a real estate attorney to represent them in a transaction? Most buyers think, hey, I don't necessarily need an attorney, but that's quite the opposite.
That's right. Well, thank you for asking. And a lot of times the reason that buyers don't think they need an attorney is because they don't believe the documents are necessary. Everybody knows that a seller's attorney orders the title work, orders the payoff, and then drafts the deed. The buyer really doesn't need any of those things. That's the seller's responsibility. What I've discovered, though, is that many times there will be an interpretation needed on the contract itself regarding some inspection items that can put a real estate agent in a really compromising position as it relates to interpreting that contract language of whether does that inspection issue fall within this paragraph or that paragraph, or even in new construction, interpreting the builder's warranty. Many times I will be asked because of it, either because of an inspection or because of some repairs that the buyer wants to make, maybe an early possession agreement becomes necessary, or there is early access to store property within the house as the transaction continues. And so there are instances where a buyer will need their attorney to draft the document because a seller's attorney will oftentimes decline to draft a document that benefits the buyer. And in many cases, having that buyer's attorney ready with knowledge of the transaction, I'm able to just pick it up, draft that necessary document, or provide that interpretation that really aids in the negotiation to maybe get those repairs made.
And you also check the title work and deed and everything to make sure there are no errors, correct?
That's correct. Attorneys are human beings, and so sometimes mistakes get made. And so there's been times where I have, in reviewing the title commitment, discovered that there was maybe a rogue second mortgage that everybody had forgotten about that was on the title work. But I say, "Where's that payoff?" And they're like, "Oh, thanks. Yeah, we'll get that. We're waiting on that." And or a lot of times people will have grants. And those grants may have expired and no longer need to be paid back. However, they still exist on the title work. And so we want to get those issues addressed. And sometimes there'll be things like as easy as a drainage district or falling within certain covenants that clients will say, "Kyle, what does this mean? And what does this mean to me? And how does this affect my ownership of the property and what I want to do in the future?" That's counseling I can provide them at the outset of the transaction before those things become an issue later.
That's really great to know. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is that I really believe that all buyers and sellers should hire an attorney like yourself, because a small error in a real estate transaction can actually cause really big issues and significant delays. So hiring an attorney is priceless because they will give you peace of mind moving forward, and that is something your team does really well.
Well, thank you very much. We love teaming up with you.
Kyle, thank you so much for taking time today to share with everybody listening about why they should hire an attorney like yourself to represent them through their real estate transaction. Everything you shared with us today was extremely valuable, so thank you for taking time out of your busy day.
You are most welcome, Christina. I'm looking forward to working with you on the next transaction.
I am too. Be sure to join us next month because we're going to go up on the roof and talk with Jeremy Janes from Copper Creek Contractors about what your roofing needs look like.